So firstly, I want to start by expressing my gratitude and thank you to Sister Immaculate for giving me this opportunity. And I thank all the teaching community here. I know you've been doing a great job for the last 1 year. We will also discuss and talk a little bit about what are the changes that we've seen, what challenges we've seen, how we overcame those, what is there in the future, and how do we prepare ourselves for the future. So if we are all ready, give me a big shout and say yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
I can't see a lot of you. I do have a small screen there, and I have this here. So the thumbs up may not work because I will not be able to see over 120 faces here. So my request is, whenever I ask you something, just unmute yourself, go out and shout. Okay. So are we ready?
Yes.
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 Awesome. Awesome. So there is a meaning in calling this program a teacher's empowerment program for the new world. Because teachers, what do you teach a teacher? I don't know. You know, when initially Sister Immaculate and I were having a conversation, Sister was saying, you know, you need to talk a little bit about motivation. What do parents expect in today's generation? And how to cope things up in the new changing world. I was like, okay, let's look at how we could package this into a 90-minute conversation. So today, what we are going to quickly cover, we are going to look at what is the new emerging world. What are the different learning styles? You might have gone through this, you might already be knowing this, but still, I think there is an emphasis that we need to give in terms of knowing what are the different learning styles. What are the traits of a teacher? What qualities does a teacher need to exhibit? And a very important element that I'm going to quickly touch upon is creativity in teaching. How do you bring in creativity in teaching? World has moved so much. There is a lot of things that is happening today. And how do you bring in that element of creativity in your teaching so as to ensure that your messages are delivered? Then how to stay motivated and question and answers. We will have our Q&A towards the end of the session. So before I start, I want to express immense gratitude to everybody here. This, if you see, is Assumption English School, the school where I passed out from. We were the first batch to complete high school from Assumption School. In fact, this is Devraj sir. He was our class teacher, and there are a lot of memories with each of these teachers. This is Nagraj sir. He used to be our PT sir. I have PT ma'am. You know, that is the good thing about teaching. No matter we know the name so well, we always call PT sir, PT ma'am. There is Annie ma'am. There are so many other teachers. There are a lot of other teachers who are not in this photograph. They've either retired. Unfortunately, a couple of them have even passed away. But I owe whatever I am today. 90% or maybe more than that of the credit goes to the school and the teachers out there who shaped me to being what I am today. So immense gratitude. In fact, the first ritual, if you want to call, as soon as I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is place my hand on my head here and pay immense gratitude by saying Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, and Acharya Devo Bhava. You know, that's what I've always believed in. And it is such a great honor and opportunity today for me to be talking to so many of Acharyas whom I look at as equal to God.
Darshan,
can I request everybody else to be on mute, please? Okay. We come to a very important and interesting topic today of the new world emerging. We've all been hearing this, right? We've all been heard and told the world is changing very fast. What is there today is not there tomorrow. You know, technology is changing so fast. The mindset, the psychology of people are changing so fast. Have you all heard this? If yes, go out and give a big shout. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we've all been hearing about this, but what are the things that has been changing? I recently had an opportunity to have a conversation and also look at a few things from a very renowned person in the educational industry. And you know, I picked up a few things from his exchange of thoughts and ideas. So world is rapidly changing. Yes, we know the world is rapidly changing, but what is it that we can do to ensure that we cope up, right? What is it that, you know, what do you mean by the world is rapidly changing? In fact, I think in the year 2000 or 2001, there was a very big conference that was held in Geneva where they called people from different categories. They called educationists, they called psychologists, anthropologists, and sociologists, and whatnot. They called people from different facets of life and did a survey or a research, I would say. And they wanted to identify, what does this change mean? How much has the world changed in the last 2000 years? Considering 0 to 2000 as the AD that we are living in, how much has the world really changed? And then when they identified the sources, they went through certain research, they came to a very wonderful calculation where they said, what is the mean midpoint, from the year 0 to the year 2000? Mathematically, what is the midpoint? What is the midpoint?
1,000.
Some 1,000, right? So mathematically, no logic required for that. Mathematically, 1,000 is the midpoint. But they looked at progress as a criteria, which means how much have we evolved from the year 2000, from the year 0 to 2000, how much have we evolved, and where is the midpoint for that? You will be surprised that the midpoint was the year 1900. What does that mean? Whatever evolution and progress happened from 0 to 1900, the world has witnessed in the next 100 years. So 1900 to 2000, that 100 years is equivalent to the 1900 years of our history. Now that brought a lot more surprise, a lot more question to people. And they said, this is interesting. If the evolution has happened so much that 1900 is the midpoint, they wanted to further probe and say, what is the midpoint between 1900 and 2000? Could somebody take a guess? Just take a guess.
1990.
Very close, ma'am. I don't know the name, but yeah, 1990. The results came out to be 1992. And that was really shocking, which means whatever progress happened in the 92 years was equivalent to that 8 years of progress, right? And today, the evolution is happening so much in the next 21 years now. I think every day, every month it is changing. Today, if you ask what could be the mean point between 2000 and 2021, where we are currently, it could probably be January this year or maybe October or November of last year. That is the rate at which changes are happening. There is a lot of technology that is changing, and we are adapting to technology. How many of us here really thought, we would get into a world wherein all the teaching would be done online? How many of us really were even prepared to do that? I know there were teachers who faced literally challenges because they were not so very happy, or they were not so very conveniently using a computer. They had their own issues in, technological issues, but then they got used to it. They started using it, and today they can teach it to maybe hundreds of thousands of other people. So technology has been evolving. We also see that today, when we talk of technology, there are concepts like AI, which is artificial intelligence, ML, which is machine learning, and all these that are taking so much precedence in our lives that very soon, a lot of jobs which are repetitive, monotonous, dangerous, and sometimes even the boring jobs, all of this are going to be taken over by machines, and machines will do these jobs. But what is the good news and the lovely thing for all of us here in this group? All of us are teachers, and teaching is a creative job. Creation cannot be taken over by machines. There are a lot of software companies who get their initial piece of code, which is generated by machines, and then people use their brains and again enhance and develop that product further. So that is the enhancement to technology that is happening. But then we are in a creative world. We are teachers, and creativity cannot be replaced. We can all pat our backs and say, great, I'm in a great profession. I'm in a great profession of transforming lives. And when I say I, it is all of us. I am a part of you. It's been a privilege to be a part of the school since the time my elder son has been with Swargarani. My younger one is still too small, so he will also come there. And I hope sister would give him a seat. Right. I don't want to get into the story of how I got my son into the school. Maybe if time permits, I'll get to it towards the end. Generation gap has reduced. Have we all noticed this, right? If I go back, when I was having a conversation with my father about something, and I was trying to understand how his relationship between his father and him was. He was saying, yeah, my father used to be very strict. He would not listen to us. He would not talk to us. probably I never had a chance to talk to that grandfather of mine. He passed away just before a few months I was born. So if probably I would have asked him, he would have said, my son don't understand me, my children don't understand me. So earlier in those, go back to those days, maybe in the 1960s, generation gap was considered to be about 25 years. People would say, hey, it's okay, don't worry, it's a generation gap. We have all heard this, right? While we've been growing, while we are raising our kids, we have heard this. Incidentally, the generation gap is coming down so much today, right? The generation gap is coming down so much today. In 1960s, it was about 25 years. In the year 2000, it was about 8 to 6 years. It was about 10 years around 2000. Around 2009, 2010, it came down to about 6 years, right? Which means if at that point of time I had two kids and the difference between them was 6 years, the elder one belonged to a different generation, the younger one belongs to a different generation. Now let us bring this to the today's world. In today's world, I also have an opportunity to talk to a lot of youngsters. So I was talking to a teenager, and we were generally discussing about marriage, and said, yeah, that was a girl I was talking to, and I said, yeah, you think a 3-4 year old difference will do? Like initially I said 5 years. She was like, oh, 5 years difference? No, no way. It should be 1 year or maximum 2 years. And I could relate it when I was talking about generation gap, because today the generation gap has come down so much that people within the first 2 years or 3 years look at one generation and the next look at us differently, belonging to a different generation. Now, why am I saying this here? Our teaching methodology have to adapt to the current generation. Today's kids are born with gadgets. A lot of our you have these experienced teachers. A lot of kids, maybe in your first, second, and third grades, initially didn't know how to turn on their laptops. They used to get their parents come and sit with them and then start, initiate the class for me, start the class for me. But over a period of time, they got just used to it and they do it by themselves. Today, they will change backgrounds, they will do whatnot, they will ask people to mute, unmute, and I've literally witnessed, right? So it's a nice thing. And while this generation gap is being reduced, it calls for us to adapt ourselves to technology. Let's take an average, right? Let's say most of us here in this group are about 40, 45 years. I know there are younger ones, but I'm taking an average. And if you're teaching kids of maybe first, second, third, fourth, or 10th, there is a age gap of about 20 to 25 years. Now, from a physiology perspective, that could be a one single generation gap when we go back to the 1960s. But when we look at the present world, there are possibly 6 or 7 generation gaps. And that means we are 6 or 7 generations behind, and we need to step up to ensure we connect to this present generation. They are evolving technology very fast, so we need to adapt to technology. The third thing we see is attention span has reduced. We know that our school days also are, every class would be for about 40 or 45 minutes, which we all know that is an attention span that a human brain is capable to retain. And that is why we had classes at an interval of 40 or 45 minutes. College 1 hour classes did not have a logic. They said if school children can sit for 40, 45 minutes, college children can tolerate us for 1 hour, and there was a 1 hour class. Now the 40 minutes attention span, which was probably in the 1970s or 1980s, slowly came down to about 20 to 28 minutes about 20, 25 years ago. Can anybody take a guess about what that attention span is today?
Around 7 to 8 minutes.
Wow. Who was that, ma'am?
I'm Purnima Raghavendra.
Superb, ma'am. Great. So, ma'am is very close, and the attention span today is 6 minutes. And it's literally not possible for us to have a class for 6 minutes. So we will also look at how do we look at having kids engaged in our class, though their attention span is 6 minutes. So that calls about different learning styles. Have you heard about these styles? Visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic. There are 4 reading styles. If yes, go out and shout yes.
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 Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Awesome. So we know this. I don't want to go deep and talk about it, but there are roots of this kind of learning to something called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which I'm sure a lot of you have been exposed to. So what are the visual learners? What are their strengths? Visual learners are these people who like to learn visually. Visual learning in the year about 1970 or so was about 40%. Today, this is about 74%. Visual learning, the style of learning comprises of 74% of today's learners. And a great tribute goes to our laptops and mobile phones and all of that, because people today want to see and learn. Do you know within your network and circle, there are a lot of people who want to see a video of a book rather than reading a book? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So visually, we want to go through something, we want to read something, and we love seeing that. Then we have auditory learners. Auditory are those people who would love to listen and learn. Now, there are a good amount of, in fact, the learning styles, there are about 8 classifications, but these 4 are something which is worldwide accepted. So I picked up these 4. So auditory are those people who would like to listen and hear and they learn by sound and voice. And that calls for a lot of voice modulation during our discussions. And that's why there is so much emphasis that it needed for voice modulation, tone quality of voice, and all of this is so important in a classroom. I'm not going to go deep because I'm sure you've been teaching for so many years, you know all this. I'm not going to bore you with this stuff. But a recap I thought was adding value here. Auditory learners, for example, if you might have come across certain students in your classes who are like probably dozing off, and you just ask them, hey, what was I saying now? They will get up and probably tell you the answer. Though they are dozing off, their learning style is auditory and they have been listening very attentively to you. The next category is reading writing learners. This is something we would all like to have. The very studious people who keep making notes of everything that you say, who have that curiosity, that inquisitiveness, that they're ready, they come to you and ask you questions. So this is something which we all would like to have in our classes. And the last are kinesthetic learners. Kinesthetic learners are the ones who learn by feeling. In fact, we've seen a lot of nursery kids, there is a lot of emphasis given towards kinesthetic and visual. I've also seen the nursery kids, nearby my house, and also in a few schools where teachers literally stand in front of the kids and say, twinkle, twinkle, little star, because until this is not done, the kid may not relate and learn about a visual. So what does it mean from our requirements perspective? Does anybody want to add something here or any questions here?
No
You may
questions.
unmute. Okay. All right. So next I want to talk about what are the traits of a good teacher. I'm sure there are so many things that we already know, right? There is a huge list that people would have said, and you need to do this, you need to do this. This is how you can be a good teacher. This is how you can learn and all of that. But what is important from the new world that is emerging, and how can we correct, or I wouldn't say correct, I would say how can we improvise whatever we are currently doing in order to improve our quality is what I am putting up here. So the first one is communication. We all know we are good communicators. If we hadn't been good communicators, we wouldn't have probably been in this profession. Now, communication doesn't just mean English or the kind of the language that you use. It is about what you're saying. Why I'm saying this is so important is because kids are so very important in their entire grooming process of their mind. I was doing a lot of research when it comes to child psychology to understand what are the stages of development in a brain that change, what are the changes that children go through from point to point. How is it that you can nurture them well in order to ensure they become really good citizens of the country? So that is something in line with the mission that I'm talking about, and I will come to that towards the end of this video. So it is very important about what do you say. I'll give you some examples as we speak. There used to be one teacher in our school, and she used to address, if generally people would make noise, she would say, hey, dadas, what are you all doing? I say, that's how she would start an address. Today, we dare use anything like this in our classrooms. We've also been not habituated, but during our school days, it was okay for teachers to use the cane method. We've literally got beaten on probably everywhere, you know, with the cane. And studious would be those people who would come and gift a bamboo stick to the cane, a bamboo stick to the teacher. And we would be like, everybody would be looking at this guy like, why did you have to do this? Tu bahar mil, baad mein dekh lenge tere ko. Right? So I'm sure a lot of you relate to these things from your childhood days, right? It's not my story, it's all our story, it's all our experiences that we are bringing together today. So there we've heard teacher, I'll give you one example. There was one teacher, in our school, we had every school has this, but we had a ritual, morning ritual of an assembly. So during the prayer, there would be one small chosen group who would be standing and singing the prayer in front of the mic. So I used to always be in the second row. And it so happened that that particular day, the school leader was absent. And just, I was standing behind her, and just as a virtue of she being not available in the school, I stepped in front of the mic, made the announcements, and I started singing the prayer. And after we finished all this and we went to the classroom, my class teacher was there and she was like, who was it today who was singing in front of the mic? And before even I could say, ma'am, he said, somebody was singing like a donkey. I was like, oh shit, this is not what I was expecting that, today I've made such a big achievement in my life. I've stood in front of the mic. I've, sung a song in front of the whole school. I was feeling like a celebrity in my mind. And when I went to the class and I was like expected to be appreciated, ma'am, who was it singing like a donkey? Like, oh shit, this is not what I deserved. And trust me, it was that day and today, I still cannot sing in front of a mic. I've changed brain patterns for I don't know how many people. I've changed so many things at a personal level for people, made so many developments in myself when it comes to knowledge and learning. This one thing I've still not been able to change. And whenever the thought of singing comes to me, this is what comes back. So what we say is very, very, very important. The incident that I'm talking to you about could be easily over 25 years, and the impact is still there. At the same time, the same teacher would force me and say, whenever there was a debate competition, whenever there was an elocution or to and fro, whatever, she would say, Jeffrey, I'm writing your name. I said, no, ma'am, no, Jeffrey, you're going, that's it. And dare we go back and talk to our teachers in any other saying no at those days? We say, yes, ma'am. And that was a skill that started developing in me so much that today I'm able to do this in front of thousands of people. What we say to the kids is very, very important. In fact, there are a lot of books written about it. There are a lot of books that talk about affirmation. It is not just positive thinking, it is also about affirmation. It's about what is it that we are saying? What quality of language are we using? A couple of years ago, when I had an opportunity to be in the school, address parents, I spoke about why you should not be using a not in the, why you should not be using the word not when you talk to kids. But I think that was only for the nursery and pre-nursery sections. Since I have a larger audience here, I'll take quickly a couple of minutes to talk about that. All of you, please close your eyes for a moment. Just listen to me. And as I speak, please do not think about your parents. Please do not think about your childhood. Please do not think about your favorite color. Please do not think about your favorite actor. Slowly, you may open your eyes. Maybe a few of you could unmute yourself at this point of time. What happened when I said, do not think about your mother?
We think
When
about
you
mother.
actually
When you
started
say
thinking
do
about
not
it.
think, we think about that,
We
sir.
think about
Absolutely. So when I said, do not think about your parents,
your
either your
thought
parents'
about
image
parents.
came or your parents' voice or
With a
some
full image.
Memories.
Yeah,
Image.
absolutely. That came. I said, do not think about your childhood. You probably even thought about having played in your childhood, in the mud or pulling somebody's hair, hitting. I don't know what all you would have done in your childhood, right? It's childhood. So that would have come. Then I said, don't think about your favorite color. you would have imagined your best favorite outfit. That blue color one that I have, that's beautiful. So the reason why I asked you to do this is the more we say do not do this, the child, forget child, everybody's mind rushes in the way that it has to first come, because to not think about it, you have to first think about it in your mind. There is nothing called not thinking about it. So instead of asking children, do not do this, do not do this, do not do this, if you tell them what they're supposed to do, that can build their mindset in a much better way. And this doesn't change over a period, even for a lot of years. See, we are all easily 35 plus, right? So even in this age, we cannot see a do not, right? We still have to think about it and come back to this. That's because a large portion of our thinking goes from our subconscious or the unconscious mind that we talk about, right? And that has a large role to play. I keep that discussion for a different day. My request is from today itself, instead of telling people do not do this, do not do this, please tell them what they are supposed to do. That brings in a lot of impact, a lot of change for ourselves and as well as for the child. So it's very important. There are people who used to call by names, you stupid, you idiot, you that, you this, you this. Fortunate enough today, sometimes I would say we are hand tied and handcuffed today, because we don't have so much liberty to do that. I showed one of my PT master who was at this left hand corner in the image when I showed my school photograph. The photograph was taken last year on Teachers Day, September 5th. In fact, that was a huge gathering, and I was not supposed to be a part of it. That happened to be arranged at a last minute by one of the alumni, and there was another classmate of mine who actually worked around it, and she made the entire event happen. We did get calls, come be a part of it, come be a part of it. I had a very important work in the bank that day, and there was no way I could skip that and attend this. Somewhere deep inside, I was feeling, oh shit, I missed such a great opportunity to meet my parents. I missed such a great opportunity. And somewhere I was feeling bad about it. And this school, for a lot of you who don't know where this is in Rajajinagar. And the bank that I was supposed to go was also in Rajajinagar. I went to the bank, but the bank was priority. I never even thought in my weirdest of my thoughts that I will be able to go to the school. So while we filled all the things, the time came for a lunch break. So the branch manager said, we will need at least 2 hours to finish all this work. So can you go out and come back? I said, okay. And we just started walking. Even at that point, I never thought I wanted to go to the school, because by then I thought all the function would be over. So I just walked by, and while I was walking by, this entire group was sitting there for a picture. So I just said, hey, let me. I just jumped in, took my photo camera and took a picture there. And that gave me that, beautiful picture to be shared here. So I don't know why I said this. It's I was talking about my PT master. So he would always call people, hey, Ayogya, Baraili. I don't know how many of you totally understand Kannada. He was like, hey, Ayogya, Baraili. He would call everybody, hey, Ayogya, Baraili. But girls, he would talk very sweetly, Enamma, Baramma, Hogamma, and all that. So while I was there and I was talking to him, oh, Yenaya, he said, sir, ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳಲಿಲ್ಲ ನೀವು, ನಾನು ವೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. I said, you were like, ಏನೋ ಸರ್, ಏನಯ್ಯ ಯೋಗ್ಯ, ನೀವು ಹಂಗೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಸರ್ ಕರಿತಾ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು ಅಂತ. ಏನ್ರಿ ಇವಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಗಿಂತ ಉದ್ದ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. There was a beautiful bonding. I'm sure if you have that connect with your teachers, you still go back to school, you feel that love and connection so much. It's so beautiful that you cannot stop talking about it, and you can't stop expressing your gratitude to them. There was one more teacher in my life who made a very big impact. Her name is Nirmala ma'am, right? She used to teach us Kannada. She left us midway in high school and she went on to another school, but even today she's in touch. And the same PT master whom I was talking to you about, when we met there and I touched down to bow his feet and take his blessings, gave me, I don't understand what that shloka meant, right? I wish I could, but he said such a beautiful blessing in the form of a shloka, which was in Sanskrit. I can just resonate it in my ears, and I felt, wow, look at it. Somebody who was saying Ayogya, not that he really meant it. That those were ways in which people were being brought up. So from there, and not that I felt Ayogya because he said so, right? But then for some, it might make an impact, right? So what we say is very, very important, and the way we say it is extremely important. Appearance. Now, for a moment again, I want all of you to please close your eyes. Think about all the teachers in your life, starting from your nursery, if you remember, primary, middle, high school, then your PU or 11th, 12th, your graduation, post-graduation, that entire journey. Think of all the teachers that can come to your mind. Some of them have impacted you in a very, very positive way. Some of them you even remember today. You might not have met them for a decade or 2 decades, but then you remember them. Their presence is as good as you feel them sitting right in front of you if you close their eyes and visualize them. There are some teachers whom you looked at and said, if I become a teacher in my life, I will be like him or her. There are some teachers who made so much of an impact, they became role models for you. At the same time, there are certain teachers whom you remember, you feel, I don't like this teacher. I just want to run away from him or her. I somehow don't get a good vibe with this teacher, so on and so forth. Think of all those experiences that you've had across your teachers. And now you may open your eyes. For a moment, you could unmute yourself and somebody can tell me a number. How many teachers could you actually think about?
10.
10?
15.
50 or 15?
15.
15. Okay. Anybody beyond that?
4 teachers.
Sorry?
7, sir.
4.
7. Okay. 4. Anybody more than 15? 15?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay.
8.
15 is the highest.
Uh.
15-1, 15-2, and 15-3. Okay. It's gone. So whoever that madam was, ma'am, may I know your name? Who said 15 teachers?
Ashwin, sir.
Ashwin.
My
okay.
name is Ashwini. Yes.
Ashwin. Okay. Thank you, Ashwin. So if you see, did we have only 6 or 8 or 10 or 15 or 20 teachers in our lifetime? Definitely not. But we remember those, we are selective because they left an impact in our lives. They made a difference to our lives in whatever way, whether it was their teaching style, their appearance, or whatever, they made a difference. Now, why did I ask you to close your eyes and do this? Because appearance today is very, very important. It's not that we come shabbily dressed today, at least thankfully today, right? We all come very well dressed. We remember of certain teachers who were so well dressed, you know, the way their appearance itself would say, okay, I will listen to this very, very carefully. Because I've had an experience when I visited one of the management colleges, right? I tell you, one of the management colleges, there was a faculty, and with due respect, I don't have anything against them, but when that person walked in, I was talking to the head of the department and she just walked. I was sitting and talking to the HOD in front of the table, and this lady walked by next to me. I could literally smell, you know, she was stinking of sweat. And I didn't know what to do. I was like turning my face here and there. I felt a little uncomfortable. And after that lady left, I was again talking to the HOD. I was saying, ma'am, you are addressing her as ma'am. What is she? He said, yeah, she's a very important person. I don't want to name the department and all of it. So she's an important person in our team. She teaches well and all that. And I looked at her again. Her dresses was not so very great. Hair was not well combed. And she was stinking. See, sometimes the smell of sweat could be because of certain biological issues. There are people who have certain conditions which lead to that. But that doesn't mean, you know, somebody can go like that, right? So why I brought this up, fortunately today we are all cautious about it, but then appearance plays a very important role. This lady, despite being a good teacher academically, she was a topper, almost, she was not a gold medalist, but she was a topper that I know of. She was among the top 10 always in her studies and so on and so forth. But there are people who were a little below her, you know, who were above average. And those people were always getting very good results. It is not about the feedback that people fill on a form and give you, it is about the results that they give you. And those results were beautiful. It's because we are seen first and then people listen to us. If I don't have the interest in looking at this person, I might not even want to listen to that person. So appearance also plays a very important role. And when I say appearance, it's not just about how we dress up, it's how we cover the stage, how we walk in the classrooms. I'm sure you have all gone through immense number of sessions, or your experiences must be much wider than what I could talk about here. Great teachers share best practices. Now, what do I mean by share best practices? This is a question for us to reflect with ourselves. when was the last time that, I did something nice, I went and shared it with my team and said, hey, this is something nice, I tried this method, it worked, why don't you implement this, or why don't you give it a try, and let us work together to see how we can make this better? Or when was the last time one of your colleague walked up to you and gave you such advice? Today we are all so caught up in saying, I have to finish this syllabus, I have 40 minutes, I have only 20 sessions, I need to finish this, how do I finish this? And it starts and ends with the syllabus, which should not be the case. That is where you give room to creativity. When you start sharing best practices, a great amount of things happen, a great amount of transformations happen. The best things are always to be shared. Unfortunately, in our society, best things is something we always say, this is very good, I'll keep it to myself, I'll not share it with anybody. True? I remember as kids, when we were in our high school, we had this habit of sharing our tiffin boxes. Maybe about 6 or 8 of us would sit together, and whatever was there in my box, 1 spoon would go to everybody, and likewise everybody's 1 spoon would come to me. Today, I don't think we are allowed to do that in school, or the children are allowed to do that in school. So while this was happening, we would always know, right? Somebody opens a nice dabba, which is either a pulao or a biryani, and it's very nice smelling. Hey, I want more of it. I want more of it. Probably the person doesn't get to eat at all. We say, you go and eat at home, but you take my dabba here, right? Sharing has always created a togetherness or a bonding. Now, whatever form it is, whether it is sharing of food, sharing of knowledge, has always given rise to a very good bonding. And in today's world, we need more of that. Especially while the world is moving so much virtual, we need more of these. We need more, to be connected more, right? Look at these days. About, in the 90s, having a telephone was a luxury. Over a period of time, having a cordless became a luxury. Then as technology evolved, technology is changing so rapidly. Like one of my friend was saying, hey, iPhone, 12, 13 is coming. I'll wait for iPhone 13 and then I'll buy that. I said, boss, if you keep waiting for it, you will always keep waiting for it, because technology is changing so much. You want to buy it, go buy what is there today if you want the latest, because even that in the next couple of months will be outdated. There was a good joke that people, this is not a new one, but then it was a good joke around it. Gaadi, mobile or BV mein kya samanta hai, right? And it always says, thode din aur ruk jata to acha model mil jata, right? So that is something which I can relate to that technology front. Just on a lighter note, technology is changing. So we cannot wait and say, I will, update myself when that comes. We have to keep updating ourselves, right? People feel sad, even cars. They buy a car today and the next 3 months is a new car that is launched and they say, oh, I should have waited. Waiting doesn't help anymore. We are in a very, very fast paced environment. So we need to set the pace, catch up with the pace, can't be behind, in terms of that pace. Another beautiful thing or a quality of a good teacher is we are lifelong learners. A question to reflect on ourselves. When was the last time I did something to upgrade my knowledge? It doesn't matter what you're teaching. You might be teaching a nursery kid, you might be teaching a 12th standard kid. But when was the last time that you really spent some time in updating your knowledge? When was the last time you looked at an innovative method or a innovative method to teach to kids, right? And there are some good amount of movies which we can talk about. I will probably give some examples to that. So we are lifelong learners. Our thirst for knowledge never comes down. We are constantly reading, constantly upgrading ourselves, because this is something we can deliver to our kids. How many of you agree that our syllabuses doesn't really prepare us for the next world? Go out and shout yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Our syllabuses, look at it. An MBA, which absolutely right. An MBA, which one of the good books, I don't think I have here on my table, Marketing by Philip Kotler. I think it was written in 1970s. Even now, some MBA colleges ask me to talk about it, and it is the same reference given. When I go back and look at a new version of a Philip Kotler, there are hardly any changes in that. There are certain things. You talk about 7 P's of marketing, it is the same 7 P's of marketing, I agree, right? But then what is that new innovation that you bring in? That's why I said, my dear friends, teaching is a creative job. The textbook doesn't change, the syllabus doesn't change, but the way we deliver it, the way we make an impact is going to change. And we are in this creative world. Once again, pat yourselves on the back. Give me a thumbs up. Come on, pat yourselves on the back. You're doing a great job. Yeah, I could see one ma'am was so hesitant. Who's that? Surekha ma'am. I am not able to see all the faces, but I see Surekha ma'am is so hesitant. Come on, ma'am, go, go, go. Give yourself a pat. Fantastic. All right. So we are lifelong learners, no compromises. And the reason I've already given to you. Creativity in teaching. Does this seem interesting?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Of course.
Yeah, all of you, please unmute yourselves, shout and give me a big yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like the yellow boat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ma'am, like the yellow boat.
Yeah, it's very lovely. It's beautiful.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. In fact, I did take a lot of time in putting these slides together. This is not something that was ready. This is something I put up in the last 2 days. And I wanted to make it a lot more beautiful because we've been talking about visual, right? If this same session was happening in your auditorium, probably the emphasis on this would have been lesser because I wanted to get the attention. But today, you know, somewhere when the eyes drift away, we know that the attention span is about 6 minutes, but we are all, you know, a class apart. We are all in the teaching community, so our attention span is much higher. Still, visual plays a big role, and that is the reason I put this up. And thanks for the compliment, ma'am. Okay, so can we all do this? Can we all just stand up once, please? I am so habituated to doing this, especially when we do this in you know, face to face and in auditoriums. So can we all just stand up once?
Yeah.
Just put your hands up. If you're physically okay and your knees are fine, I just want you to do this for like 10 times.
I can't jump.
If you can't jump, please just stretch 10 times. And then please take your seat.
Actually nice.
What was nice, ma'am? Stretching, yeah. I'll tell you why I get this done once in a while. My guru, somebody whom I follow very closely, is Tony Robbins. And he says, you know, physiology is very, very important. I'll give you an example just because we did this. And it also plays a very important role for us in the classrooms while we are looking at a 40 faces or a 45 faces today. Earlier, it used to be 100, 120. So physiology plays a very important role. Now, if I tell you there is someone standing behind you, you don't have to turn and look back. I'm just saying somebody behind you, behind the wall, whose body language is like this. His shoulders are down. He's breathing shallow. He's looking down. His voice is not as great as you would like to hear. What do you think would be the mindset of such a person?
Tired.
What do you
Not
think?
interested?
Tired.
Sorry, ma'am?
Not
Sorry?
interested?
Not interested. Okay. What else?
Not confident.
Shy.
Not confident.
Confident.
Not confident.
Confident.
Not yes,
Boring.
Shy.
Sad.
Timid.
Shy?
Inferiority
Shy.
complex.
Inferiority complex.
Inferior.
Yeah.
Timid.
Issues?
Ma'am, what issues?
Timid.
Health.
Timid. Yeah. Timid. Health issues. Okay. So someone who's exhibiting all these qualities, sad, sometimes depressed also. I don't like to use the word depressed because a lot of people just use it. I'm feeling so depressed. You don't understand what is the meaning of depressed. I mean, there's a huge world of difference between being sad and being depressed. So a person with that physiology is, we all understand, is sad. Now I'm saying there is another person behind the same wall whom you're still not able to see. He's standing tall, chest is high, you know, breathing is deep, and his voice quality is awesome. Forget the voice quality, just look at the body. You know, he's standing tall, his shoulders are high, chest is high. What do you think?
Bold.
Bold?
Confident.
Confident?
Confident.
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 Energetic.
Okay.
Energetic.
Energetic.
Enthusiastic.
Energetic.
Happy.
Strong.
anything.
Interest.
Strong.
Yes.
Interest.
Interest.
Sports person.
Sports person. Okay.
Ever ready.
Ever
Cheerful.
ready. Cheerful.
Always positive thinker.
Always
Impressive
positive.
personality.
Yeah.
Creative.
In one word, I can put it as Jeffrey Rakesh. No?
Ah,
Okay. So
Okay, very
when we
good.
talk about this, sometimes you have to give that credit to yourself. No, and so nobody gives it. Just give a credit to yourself. You feel good about it. Okay. So why did I talk about this? We all know so much that there was an imagination character which was behind this wall, and we are able to talk about that character. Now the same thing, your mind and your mind and your body are so connected that the moment you feel that there is a feeling of sadness, or you feel that you're not totally ready for it, just change your physiology, and that change in physiology changes everything. Since we are talking about this, I want to take another couple of minutes and talk about something called a 2 mm shift. Remember this, a 2 mm shift or a 1 degree shift. However, there are people using different analogies for this, but then it works the same way. Now, the same example that I gave you, this example is largely taken with respect to golf. I think it still holds true for cricket also, because we've been a cricketer. I've never played golf. I've only had the opportunity to see it. And in one country, there was something called a lake golf. So there is a lake, there is one big area here, and you stand here and hit the golf ball into the lake. There are certain points which is kept there. So wherever you hit, you get so many points. So just because it was a rich man's game, I wanted to give it a try. I tried hitting it, and I was literally hitting it like cricket, because I'm only used to playing cricket. So then slowly I got used to that golf stick, whatever it is called. And then slowly I started playing it. I didn't find it very fascinating at that point of time, but something I wanted to relate to what I learned there. When I was hitting it, it was just going, I was aiming it to a particular goal in front of my eyes, which was there. But when I hit, probably it was going somewhere in a different corner. So there were professionals sitting there. So there was one guy who was watching this, and I just smiled at him. He said, "You want some help?" I said, "Yeah, I'm actually holding it straight. I'm hitting it straight also, but I wanted to go there, but the ball is going there." He said, "You're doing it beautiful. You are actually doing it really well. But the only thing that you're doing is, instead of holding this edge here, when you hit it, you're just tilting it only so much, maybe just a couple of degrees." That's what he said at that time. And that shook me, because we've been into this psychology, we've been into looking at mindsets, we've been into tuning of mindsets. And that is how I realized a 2 mm shift or a 2 degree shift can end up a ball from my goal. It can possibly go somewhere far, far, far away. Imagine when a plane takes off, there is a course that they set. They say in this degree at this speed is what I have to go, right? Let's say I'm going from Bangalore to Singapore. So when I'm going there, the course is set and the flight keeps going, 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 going. Somewhere there, let's say, if the course is deviated by 1 degree or 2 degrees, for the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, it may not make a difference. But at the end of 4.5 hours, which is the arrival time for a flight from Bangalore to Singapore, I might probably end up in a totally different country. I might end up in Indonesia, or depending on which way the 2 degree shift was made. So why am I saying this? As teachers, we need to constantly look at what is that shift, what is that 1 degree, 2 degree shift that we are going to make in the life of the child that will ensure he or she will reach the goal that he is destined to and not deviate away. Why people are so deviated? Why are students so deviated? I can relate to a lot of high school, in fact, 7th standard onwards, or maybe 6th standard onwards also, to the high school and the 11th and 12th kids today. They are so much deviated, so much distracted. It's not only about habits. It's not just about cultivating bad habits, because not all kids do that. There are a few who get into such habits. But then what is it that you can do as teachers to ensure that they don't deviate? Right? There is something that is more attractive. That's a different topic. Probably I would love to come back and do that session on how do we hold those kids back from getting into such thing at a different session. But here, the only thing that is in our hands is to get that small course correction. The captain of a ship, what does he do? His work is only to keep checking, are we going in the right course? Just do that course correction. That is where the word course correction has been taken from. So since we spoke about that, now coming back to the physiology. Now, if I'm feeling sad and I'm here, Just the 2 millimeter shift to make me happy is this. Can you see the difference? Just the 2 millimeter shift. This and this can make a difference between me feeling sad or me being alive, lively, happy, and creating a difference. So ensure that whenever you see a kid, always play some emphasis to the physiology. Get them to change their physiology, their state of mind will change. I was saying to my son before we started the session, he accompanied me and I said, before we start the session, you know, I will take a couple of minutes to get into peak state. He was like, what? What is peak state? I said, I'll explain to you after that, you know. And this is an activity we need to do. Every time before we get into the class, get yourselves into that peak state, because this is a resource from where, you know, I love talking to teachers. The reason is because if I'm talking to 120, 130 or 140 people here today, I know through you, I can possibly reach the 3,500 kids. And in some way or the other, we can make that difference. So ensure that before you get into your classrooms, you get into that peak state. And getting into a peak state, only thing you have to do is change your physiology. That was the reason for me to ask you to do that jumping or stretching, whatever. Once in a while, you know, just before you start, and just before I start, it's a ritual for me as well. Before I start any session, I make sure that I get into that peak state by doing that jumping. You know, get your energy levels high and then start. How's it going so far? If it's going good, say yes. Give me a shout.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
How many of you
sir.
are feeling good? Come on. Give me a yes. Okay, that means everybody's listening. Thank you. All right. So let us look at what are some of the creative, how do we bring in creativity? This is also something everybody talks about, right? Everybody talks about we need to be creative, we need to be creative, we need to be creative. And then, unfortunately, what happens in most schools when the syllabus is not completed, what is taken away is the drawing, singing, craft class to ensure that they complete the syllabus. Right?
True,
At least
true.
that used to happen in our school
Yes.
days. And we say
Pro, sir.
creativity.
Or PE class, sir.
Huh?
It's pro
Oh,
also.
They will take PE class.
I heard a PE teacher who's like full of regret. My PE classes go away for them to complete the syllabus. Absolutely, absolutely. See, the problem is we talk about it, but when it comes to action, there is something that is not there. It's not that we are doing it intentionally. The biggest problem is there is so much of a misunderstanding between education knowledge, right? We are more into education and saying, you know, oh, I'm given a vessel, I need to fill that vessel. So let me fill, let me fill, let me fill, let me fill. We don't want to fill something into a bucket. What we want to create is a transformation in terms of knowledge. You know, that should be our goal, right? All said and done, I agree and I relate to what a few minds will be saying. All that is fine. If 10 standard we don't get 100% pass marks, no, then you come and see what my management will say. If one student fails, especially in my subject, I don't know who the teacher is, but if it is my subject, let us say science or mathematics, if 3 people fail, then you come and see what. Now forget fail. Fail is like too this one these days. If I get 3 people below 90%, you come and see what my management is going to tell, right? So there are so many things that we are surrounded with. There are so many things that is a pressure on us, whether we like it or not. In some form, this is becoming a pressure on us. It need not be a management. It could be the parents, right? It could be parents saying, what is this? He's always sitting and studying. Why is he not getting 99.99? People have a problem with somebody, if somebody gets 99.2. I heard somebody who got a 99 point something, applied for a revaluation and then got 100. I was like, good. You know, sometimes this used to be marks of 3 subjects put together for me, right? Okay. So anyway, how do we bring in this creativity? The reason I spoke about this is we talk about it, but when it really comes to action, there is something we are truly missing. So to bring in creativity, all these art classes that is going on, please continue that. And one very important thing which we learned as a tool for us to develop our creativity, if you're a natural right-hander, for some portions of work that you do, start using your left hand. Let's say this one day from this time to this time, for every day, I will use only my left hand. Probably you want to change your habits by saying, you know, I will start brushing my teeth using my left hand. Or one day you'll say, whenever I open the door, naturally I go with the right hand. Now I'll start using my left hand. By doing this, we do a balance of the right brain, left brain things. Probably if I come back to you for an NLP session, I would delve a little more deeper into this and also different styles of learning. maybe we'll have the opportunity very soon to meet in person and do this in your auditorium. Okay, so now coming back to creativity, summarization technique. How many teachers summarize your class? Please unmute your mic and say, I do it.
Yes,
I do
sir.
it.
Yes, sir.
Everyone should do it.
I do it.
Everyone
I
do
do
it.
it. I do
Yes,
it.
sir.
I do
Mind
it.
mapping we will do.
Sorry,
Yes,
ma'am,
sir.
mind mapping.
Last.
Yes.
Okay, and would you mind talking a little about it? Maybe 30 seconds. Mind mapping. There was a ma'am who said, I do mind mapping. So if you don't mind, could you speak about it, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Whatever I taught that class, at the
Mhm.
end of the class, 5 minutes, I will then make them to remember like a tree,
Fantastic.
whatever I have done.
Okay.
Whether it's a formulas or what are all the types we did,
Mhm.
the same way I used to do. The entire one chapter over, what are all the concept, sub-concept, I used to remember them like a tree branches.
Fantastic, fantastic. And what subject do you teach, ma'am, if you don't mind me asking?
Mathematics.
Mathematics, fantastic. And mathematics for a lot of children becomes a boring subject. For me, that's my favorite subject even today, right? I don't know why, but mathematics became my favorite
Thank you,
subject.
sir.
Thank you. And you know, it's a beautiful technique of summarization. And I heard a lot of teachers are doing this really great. And is this the methodology that you use most of the time? Summary means at the end of 40 minutes, I'm assuming it's a 45 minutes class. So the last 5 minutes of your class, you talk about whatever you covered and you talk about it. Is that how it goes for everybody? Or is there somebody who's doing anything different here?
We do ask them questions of what we have taught. In that way, we will summarize what we have taught them. So we will
Fantastic.
understand whether the child has understood it or not.
Okay, okay. Fantastic. A great job. A great job. I want to add 1 or 2 extra versions to it, if that is okay with all of you. May I?
Sure,
I need
sir.
permission to do that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So while we are doing this summarization, what happens? See, when you say, okay, what did we learn in the last 35 minutes? Most of them are already closing their books, putting it in their bag, bringing out the next book of the next class, right? They just want to say, oh, okay, maths is over. Some of them is like, maths is over. Next is English. You know, I'll get to read stories. So they'll be happy to close that and take out the next book. Happens sometimes, if not every time. So what is it? You know, one ma'am said, you know, we asked some questions. What are the other improvisations we can do in summarization? Some things that we've seen working, maybe you would have followed this. And when I say this, you say, yeah, I've done this. You know, divide the class into a set of 2, 3, or 4, and then ask question one by one. Team A, and this is like rapid fire, just like last 5 minutes of your class. If you could do this, you know, things will transform the way they are learning. Probably their revision times might come down and they might be able to relearn things and revise things much faster. Quickly ask them, okay, what is this question? Okay, team A gets 1 point. Team B, answer, wrong answer, no point. Team C, you get 1 point. So this becomes a game. And when people get into that mind of competition, when they get into that mode of game, their brains are much faster. Their attention for you will remain. Today, we know that the average attention span is about 6 minutes, and we need to hold them for 35 to 40 minutes. So this is one of the quick techniques which you may implement depending on your schedules and you know, the methodologies that you adapt. Another quick summarization technique is, there are some kids who are like, whom you cannot control. Do whatever you are not able to get these kids under your control. No matter what you do, they will do what they want to do, right? So get 2 of such kids during the beginning of the class and say, today at the end of the class, you and you will summarize whatever I've said. And when you do this, the whole class will look at them. Haha, this guy, okay. So what will happen at the end of it? A beautiful thing is going to happen. At the end of it, when they summarize and they say, ma'am, you said this, you said this, you said this. If you haven't said that, the entire class will shout and say, ma'am, you did not say this. And in case they skip out something, ma'am, he did not say this, right? So that is another way of trying to get attention of the entire class. Trust me, this investment of 5 minutes is going to bring changes, bring a lot of changes. And now, since the entire world is becoming virtual and we are going to continue this for maybe a few more months together, this technique will help you have the attention of kids. It is so difficult. I can see, you know, I can see my own kids sometimes when the videos are on, when I just peep in and see, I can see kids are busy doing something. I get an opportunity to only to see second standard. Last year, my son Rishan was in grade 2 and now has come to grade 3. So I see how kids were struggling, how kids are struggling to hold the attention. Forget kids, my own son doesn't sit in one place. He's so restless, he keeps changing. No. He wants to pull this out, he wants to pull that out. Now he's sitting in front of me and smiling when I'm saying this. So your class 3F teacher is seeing this. He's in front of me. Okay, all right. So, it is so difficult to hold their concentration. So the best thing to do is bring in something like this. Maybe for smaller kids, you could break this down. After 10 minutes, you say, okay, Rishan, what is this? Can you give me an answer? Or another kid, Asya, what is this? Give me an answer, right? By doing such engagements, you get hold of them. They are in your control. And another thing, I think summarization and Teams quiz I covered. The next thing is debate to discussion. A lot of structure of public speaking that is taught to kids is mostly in the form of debate. I think there is a difference between debate and elocution. Elocution must be a topic and you come and talk about it. Debate is either to or fro, which is for or against. So I think we need to groom the minds of the kids, not just to think for, but also think against, right? When you say a kid to talk for a topic, the mind is only thinking of for, and another kid is only thinking of against. Instead, you say, okay, this group and this group, now you are going to give me one liner on one item for this topic. You are going to give me one item against this topic. Now you will give me against, you will give me for. That way, the thinking pattern in the brain changes and they become more creative. How is it sounding so far?
Interesting.
Good, sir.
Interesting, sir. Nice.
Great.
Going good, sir.
You feel these creative techniques are going to make an impact. I'm sure you would be visualizing
sure.
this.
Definitely.
I'm
Few
sure
we
you'll
are
be-
using.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I said, right? When I start saying this, you will say you would be using a few, but I
Yeah.
thought it is a good point that I re-emphasize again, because not
Sure.
everybody would be using this. So I thought if all of us could bring in this practice, it'll be beautiful. In fact, I want to bring something to your notice. There is a group called RR Nagar group, Facebook group, and frequently parents keep asking about which is the best school, which is the best school. And there are a few names which come about. And whenever I see, I religiously type in Swargarani, not because my son is studying there or not because I like Sister Immaculate. It's because I see that sense of service in the school when I walk. I see that sense of, caring and something that I want to contribute to the society. And that is where I think the vision of the school was when it started, probably 35 or 38 or 40 years ago. I'm sorry, sister, if I'm wrong about that.
25.
25 years ago.
25.
When this was still a mini forest, right? So that was the time when something like that started. And today we see so beautiful. And somebody who's gone through that journey feels it so close to their heart, and it's so nice to see. It's like bringing up a kid and you see that kid has grown so big and become so successful. It's always a pride to be talking about that kid. So again, it's not because I'm talking to Swargarani, I'm saying this. It's because I've seen that sense of connectedness. I will also talk about what are the different types of people, what are the different types of mentalities that people have very soon, right? All right. So why did I mention about the Facebook group? We are all doing good work and we continue doing that good work. By default, it could be your school, your school, your school. Now, trust me, if another school calls me, I will go and tell the same thing there. Not because I have anything against one or the other school. It's because my purpose is to reach to all those sweethearts there, which are those kids who will shape my country going forward. And that can happen only through you people. I'm really grateful to this great community of teachers. And I really mean it by heart when I say this. Okay, so then the next thing is technology. Adaptation to technology. We use a lot of technology. We never thought we would be using Zoom, Google Classrooms, and Cisco WebEx meetings or whatever. These used to be, I think, mid 2000s is when I was exposed to online meetings. And those days it used to still be a nightmare. Oh, what do you do? Where to click, what to do? And today everything is there. Today nobody cares. Yesterday I was having a conference with a group of entrepreneurs sitting out of the UK who wanted to build something for a child development program. It's something they wanted to come out with and build. So in that group also, it is so seamless that we can do everything sitting at our home today, as long as we can leverage technology. So when it comes to technology adoption, why do you think PowerPoint presentations became so very important? PowerPoint presentation, the first time I even got exposed to it was during my graduation days. We wanted to do a competition I was a part of the competition. We wanted to present something. So we did something called a PowerPoint presentation. But today it is like every kid does it, right? My son does something called a quiz. I didn't even know how, even today, I've not gone to figure out how he did that. But he makes a quiz by himself. The questions are, first question, what is Rishan's favorite color? And he gives you 4 options. Then what is Rishan's favorite animal? He gives you 4 options. So like that, he puts about 5 or 8 questions. And then that is sent as a link to your mobile. So you click the link, you get those questions, tick, 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 and submit, you get an answer there. I was like, wow, this is nice. Not that we don't know how to do it, but a kid learning this by himself and doing this is great. We were all crying, just before last year, if every parent's problem was this. My son is always on the TV, always watching cartoon, always on the mobile. Now I'll go back to the same parent and say, get the mobile back from your child, get the child away from your TV. Then how will he learn, right? So today it's there is a total paradigm shift in what we were talking just about a year ago and what we are talking today. Today we are going, parents are giving kids, take this mobile, take this laptop. Oh, this is not clear, I'll get you another one, whatever, right? But we are ensuring that we are enabling them with as much technology. At the same time, we need to adapt to technology. So the more visual tools you are able to use, right? In terms of a geography, we remember, those days there would be a map. The teacher would come and put a map there. And for some reason, they would just point their finger there and our attention would go there. Whether something was being spoken from the map or not, our attention would go there because there was something visual to see. If it is a possibility, if you would like to do this, what you could do is, that's one of the reasons, I'll come back to that. So what you could do is, it's an option, and my suggestion, if it is possible, you may record a class that you do, right? Because today all mobile phones have a camera. Just keep it in the corner when your classroom comes or when you're taking online classes, whenever, just keep it in a corner, record it. And after that, play it back. If you have the courage to watch it back for 40 minutes, play it back. And then you yourself will notice that there are few moments that were wow moments. There were few moments where you think, I think the energy was low here. This is something nobody else can give you. You give a self-feedback to yourself and look at the improvisation that can happen. Because we, like I said in the beginning, we are in that profession of creativity. We have to constantly keep evolving. We have to use technology. So using technology to this extent is also possible. We can use it to better ourselves. Okay. And then another important element is how to stay motivated. You think this is important? Especially with what we are seeing, right? Like
Yes,
sir
sir.
mentioned, the words we are hearing today, pandemic, epidemic, corona, Covaxin, Covishield, then what all, white, yellow, black, blue, all colors of fungus, and what not, right? So we will come to that. But before that, if I have your permission, I want to introduce something which is very, very personal to me. There was a Mission 100 which was spoken about here. So do I have your permission to talk about it maybe for 2-3 minutes? If yes, unmute yourselves and give me a big shout and say yes.
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 Sir, yes.
Yes.
Truly, it wasn't loud enough.
Yes, sir.
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 Now,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Okay. Pay a little close attention because this is something very, very close to my heart and didn't become close to my heart. These numbers are going to shock you. If you haven't seen this before, these numbers are going to shock you. What are these numbers? 2016, it is 118. 2017, it is 122. 2018, it is 133. 2019, it is 140. And 2020, it is 144. What is this? The UN World Happiness Index, I am sure this may not be readable to you, but it is purposely made so. It is a UN World Happiness Index that the United Nations made across a survey for a country of 156. Totally about 156 countries were surveyed from 2016 to 2020. Every year, even 2021, they've done this survey. I'll come to that number. In 2016, we were at 118. In fact, 2015, if I go back 1 year, our ranking was 117 out of 156 countries. Then 118, 122, 133, 140, 144. Absolute rubbish. When I looked at this number, maybe in 2017 or 2018, I was literally, it was a big shock to me. I don't know if it still is a big shock to you. Does this sound like a shocking number to you? And look at that, 144 out of 156 countries. That means we are almost in the bottom. Now go back and relate this. Relate it to the quarrels that we see on the road. Somebody's bike just touches a car, they are ready to get down, fight, use all possible languages, go hit them. We've seen on news and media when everything was open, just because somebody scraped through somebody's car, people have gone to an extent of killing that person. Road rage killed this person, road rage, this happened, that happened. We've seen so many activities in the society which we really don't like. So many amounts of murders and rapes and whatnot. Every day you get up, this used to be the news. Thanks to Corona, we are seeing something else, but then these news are also there. Now, this is shocking. And then I was like, what is happening here? There is something that we all need to do. This is not something that we can happily pass on and say, oh, it's the government's job, the government should do. You go back to your own personal homes today. When we go back to personal homes also, we don't see that sense of fulfillment and happiness. Some of them really have made a lot amount of wealth. Some of them really are very happy. Some of them show that they are very happy, and so on and so forth. But then, are we really happy? Are we really content? There is one beautiful saying which says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Now, everybody's measure of success is different, but if you're not fulfilled at the end of the day, that is the ultimate failure. What are we teaching our kids? We are teaching our kids how to compete, how to do this, how to do that. Are we really teaching our kids how to be happy? It's a question we need to ask ourselves. If I'm a parent, each one of us possibly here are parents, most of us would be. Is that what we are teaching our kids? Are we teaching them how to be happy? Or we're just putting them in the race and saying, you have to come first, you have to come second, you have to be, there is nothing called second, you have to always come first. Are we pushing them towards that? There is a competitive world, there is everything around us, I agree. But in the sense of competition, we are losing something which is much more sacred and beloved to us, which is happiness. At the end of our life, what is our goal? Happiness. I'm sure a lot of you relate to this. And this was very, very, very touching. In fact, that humanity in us is there. There is a video about this. Maybe you can go and check that video out in detail on my YouTube, right? But then when a natural calamity occurs, when something happens, the humanity in us comes up. We all get together. Floods happen somewhere. There are people come together. Now there's a pandemic. There are so many people whom we never knew are coming out together. They are arranging vaccines, oxygen cylinders, trying to check if beds are available. There is so much service people are doing. Why do we need some situation like this to bring out the humanity in us? Why can't we just be good human beings all the time? Why can't we teach that into our kids and engrave it in their brains that they need to be a good citizen for the country? It's not just about education. It is a lot beyond that. And that can happen through you. Let me quickly tell you this, what my mission is and why am I doing this? My mission or my purpose of life is to come to a mission 100 first and build a happier India. Our ranking of 144 in the year 2020, can we bring it down to 100 first? Can we do this for ourselves? We are not doing this for anybody. Ultimately, I want to be happy. You want to be happy. We want everybody around us to be happy. So this is a part of my mission. And I invite each of you to be a part of this mission. There is some way every one of us can contribute to this. This is not something I'm building for politics. When I did this for the first time, there were all sorts of other things that came. I know why you are doing this. Oh, I know. No, what? You will do this, you will get followers, then YouTube will pay you money. Oh, what nonsense. YouTube will pay me peanuts, boss, even if I make 1 million subscribers. And you think I'm doing this to get peanuts? I am doing this because it touched me and there is something that I can do to the country. This something to do to the country was there in my childhood. My high school days, I still remember what I wanted to do, get into the army. My grandmother said, no, nothing doing. You are the eldest child. Moreover, you are a boy. You are the only boy in the family. You can't go. gone. Then I said, okay, I will not go to army, I'll go Air Force. He said, nothing doing, no Air Force, no army, no navy. You study well, get one government job. That was what my grandmother used to tell. And somewhere there that, faded away. But then to do something to a country, you don't need to be there is what I realized. This is something I've been thinking about for the last 3 years. But then action I've taken only now. And I invite all of you to be a part of this mission. It's a personal request. We all are Indians. We have to do our bit to the country. And how do we do this? If you ask me today, the entire map to it, I don't know. See, if I want to go from here to Kanyakumari in my car in the night, I can't see the road from here to Kanyakumari. What I do is I turn my headlights on and I know the next 30, 40 feet is what I can see in front of me. But with that light, I will go and reach my destination. I need more people to support me. We all need to come together, join our hands. So if you're okay, my request to you towards the end of this, I will share my YouTube link. You can just search for Jeffrey Rakesh, you will get me. Please subscribe to that channel because I'm going to put up a lot more videos there, which is going to be transformational for somebody or the other. There may be one video which may not be useful to you, but you feel that my friend might get used. My friend may add value in this. My students may find value in this. So I don't know which one, but I'm going to do all of these, and none of this is going to be charged. Whatever I'm going to put on YouTube, I'm going to give a lot of resources and information that I've learned over the last many years, and I'm continuing to learn. I'm going to share all that as my contribution back to the society. And if you're a part of this mission, and if you are on YouTube, I will know how many people have really gone back and subscribed to me today after this call, after this discussion of ours. So then we will all come together. I will keep communicating. There will be some small things which we will do, but it will create a very big impact to our country in the next decade. That's my promise to you today. I never made this public. It's only now that I've started to make this mission public. I asked for 2-3 minutes, but I think I've stretched that because something when it is close to your heart, you just go on and on and on. Sorry about that. Okay, so how to stay motivated? There is so much chaos. There is so much. There was a word that came and it just stopped. I didn't want to use that word in front of the audience here, right? There is so much that we are seeing, and amidst all this, how do we still be motivated? Tough, especially from a teaching community. We all know, I'm making some statements here. I don't know how many like it, don't like it, right? Teaching is a thankless job. There is no way anybody can repay or except for being grateful. There is no other way to compensate for that. We know from maybe a salary perspective, people who came up may not be, people whom you brought up may be earning 10 times your salary. But then we are not into this profession for the money or the salary. If it was money, salary, then we have so many other jobs out there. This is a difference that you are going to make to the society. I'm sure people have told about this, but then knowing and not doing it is as good as not knowing it. Like I know something, but if I'm not doing it, it's as good as not knowing, right? When I went to a lot of education institutions, and when I was talking to them in closed rooms, when I was talking to them in closed rooms and we were having conversations about what is it that can motivate you? What is it? There were people who said, we need innovative methods, we need this, we need that. And there were a large portion who were saying, oh, that college will pay so much, this college will pay so much. Is it only about that? Or is it about a difference? That is something we need to be really clear about. I don't know if this was a relevant topic here, but then I speak from the heart and a few things just come out from the heart. I know everybody has challenges. A lot of them have challenges. There are people who might be so very dependent that they want to, pay their rent. They might have kids and pay their fees, or, get some groceries. Whatever way, we all have our own commitments. It is always about what is it? Are you the one who's always giving an excuse, or are you the one who is going to convert something into a strength for yourself and move forward? Trust me, there is a lot of this that we can do. And I'm not asking for financial contribution here. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for involvement in your own professions, in your own jobs. See, Gallup Strengths, if you heard about Gallup Strengths is a very large organization that talks about psychological tests for mass audiences. And they've done surveys across multiple countries, across different professions. And they broadly categorize people into three types of employees into three types. So the first one is engaged. Engaged is the kind of employee every employer wants. These are the guys who are always ready. These are like your most active kids in your class. They're like always ready to go and do that extra work. They're always full of energy. They want to make a difference to the work that they're doing. And they're always active. They always want to contribute and they want to give more. That is their motto. So the first one is, if you're listening and you're still on mute, I will give it, is engaged. The next one, absolutely. And the second category is disengaged. Disengaged are those, you can call them a harmless category. These people, for them, nothing matters. They get up, finish their daily routine, put on their bag, come to work, finish my work and go back. For them, it's like a tick mark. They are harmless. They're not going to create any harm to you. And some of the times they don't even have a purpose or a vision. They're not looking at the bigger picture and saying, I want to make a difference. I want to do this in life. That is not something that they're really looking at. They will come, finish their work and go back. The third one, the danger category, is actively disengaged. Now, this kind of people you will find, and you will find them with energy also. These kind of people will come and say, neither I will be happy, nor will I let you be happy. I will ensure, even if I see you happy, I'll ensure I do something to pull you down. Yeah, what's happening today? What's up? You're very happy today? Hey, yeah. I was just passing by this comment. My manager told me this. What manager will tell you? Managers have to tell only because they have to get work done. Even if it was a genuine compliment your manager gave you, they will say, they'll find a flaw in every possible thing. They are the ones who will want to pull you down from growing. They are the ones who will hold you from going up. A new employee comes into the team, full of active energy, and they want to make a difference. And after the meeting, everything is over. They're like, come here. You know what? You've done all this. You've done this 10 years ago. It doesn't work. So relax. Don't. I know. Initially all this happens. When I came out of college also, I was like you only. See, after 10 years, what has happened? Nothing. So why are you wasting time? Just be like this. Even people who want to go front, they'll pull them back. So you have three categories. You have engaged, you have disengaged, and you have actively disengaged. And in the survey that was done, the engaged category, any guesses how many, what is the percentage of 100 that people are really happy with the organization, they are associated, they are happy, they always want to contribute and do more and give more. What could be a rough?
9 to 10%.
30%.
20 to 25.
9 to 20%.
9 to 10, 20, 25.
20%.
Somebody say?
Less
Okay.
than 50.
Less than 50 or 15?
50, sir.
50, okay.
Around
Ma'am, you're
50.
too optimistic. Okay.
Less than
Okay.
1.5 only. Right.
Less than 15. Okay. Yeah. And our average is about that. It used to be about 12 to 13%, but right now, because of the pandemic, people have become more committed to work, because now they know if end of this month salary doesn't come, then I know I have a problem. So that commitment has increased, and the recent statistics say it is 18%, 18 worldwide. 18% of people are actively engaged in the job, and that is a high number. Otherwise, the general numbers are much lower. And then the disengaged. Any guesses? What is that category?
Maybe around 50% or so, more than 50%.
Yeah. That's about 52 or 53%. So 52 plus 18 is 70, 71.
Yeah.
And we have another big mass, which is 29% to 30% of people who are actively disengaged, who are always making sure that neither they will be happy nor you will not be happy. So what is it that we need to do? Stay away from those people. This person has a problem. I think mentally he needs help. Let him, take his own time. Let her take her own time. Let us come back. Sorry. Okay, that was not for me. All right. Okay. So, that is the percentage of engaged, disengaged, and actively disengaged people. And what we need to make sure is we get away from those actively disengaged people. They have these closed groups. There are closed WhatsApp groups where they will say, Today's meeting, what do you think? Let's say you did a beautiful meeting, you put a vision and said, this is where we are heading to in the next 5 years. Just like I showed a Mission 100. There might be people later who will, what do you think Mission 100 and all will work? What we will do? 200 people here, 50 people here. What do you think we will do? Our population is 1.3 billion. What do you think we'll get India to Mission 100? Like that, when a corporate thing happens, I've got those comments, and that's why I'm sharing this with you. When a corporate meeting happens, there is so much that is spoken about the vision, the growth, and they say, as a team, we will grow together. In that room, everybody clap hands, eat samosas, drink juice, and come back. They're very happy. And as soon as they step out, they call their other person. What do you think? Waste, no? Time is totally waste, no? I don't think this is going to work. Absolute waste of time. And then there is another guy who will join. Have you noticed this? If you are walking, let's say 3 or 4 people are walking together. As time progresses, if you notice, all of your footsteps will be together. You will all set the same pace. Have you noticed? Because all of us have a different walking style. Some walk very fast, some walk very slow, some are mediocre. But when you're walking together, all of you set the same pace.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So we are the one who
Yes,
should be the
sometimes.
one who will set the pace, who not follow the pace, right? We will set the pace. We are going fast. We are there to hit a goal. We will make a difference in people's life, and we will take people along. So we are the ones who are going to set this pace. If you are with me on this, come on, go give a shout and say yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
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 Yes, sir.
Yes.
Love that energy. Love that energy. So I've put 3 things here. While briefly I've covered all of it, I'm just talking about it very quickly. What is focus? See, focus is like a laser beam. If there is a thick, let's say an iron wall, if I have to cut that, what do I need to do? If I take a laser gun, I can't keep doing this around it. Even when I use a laser gun, I need to focus, slowly keep moving it, and slowly start cutting an iron wall. Yes, we relate to this. So focus is as powerful as a laser beam. The more we focus on what we want, remember initially we started focusing. I said, do not think about it, do not think about it. And we ended up thinking about it. So the more what we focus on is what we get. So it is called a psycho-cybernetic principle. Maybe you've heard about it. Your brain goes in the direction whatever you give it. You give a command to your brain that will follow. There is a goal. There are so many people who do not have a goal in life. See, I've had the opportunity and the privilege to talk to a lot of teachers, and I've seen multiple people. Why is it that you came into teaching? There are a few people, the engaged category. I came because of passion. I want to make a difference in someone's life. I want to create an impact. Then the second category of disengaged. For those who don't understand Kannada, I didn't get a job anywhere. Then finally I got this, I came. So teaching, which should be on the top, the first profession, is today somewhere becoming a profession which I'm getting into because I did not find anything else, right? I've heard people saying this. Nothing of this is made up. Nothing that I've spoke for the last close to 90 minutes is made up. Everything is experience and true. Then there is another set of people. I wanted to do my higher studies. I want to give more time to my family. So I think this is best. Come 9 to 5, 9 to 3, 9 to 3, 9 to 4, finish, go. Then I have all the time. I can do whatever I want for my family. Not too much of pressure and all that. Those people are getting it on the backside now because slowly there is pressure started to build up. There are KRAs, KPIs that is being set for the teachers as well, which is a good way. But then, why am I saying this? Because what we lack will be a goal or a purpose, right? When we come with that kind of a mentality, only the engaged, which is that 18%, come with a goal and say, I am here because of a passion. I think I cannot do anything besides teaching. That is what I'm made for. And the other 2 categories, the second category at least disengaged, there is a likelihood you could shift them into the engaged category. The third gone case categories, we will also get them along together slowly. But then if there is a purpose, if that purpose is, yes, I'm going to make a difference to this world. Yes, I'm going to make an impact to this world. Like I showed a picture of my teachers during the beginning of this session. If there is 1, 2, or 10 or 100 kids talking about you in their future and say, hey, you know what? There was this one ma'am who made a difference in my life. And I'm always grateful to that ma'am. Whether they come back and talk to you, whether they come back to say that thanks or gratitude to you, if they express it in their mind, all those good wishes always come back to you. and it always comes back in leaps and bounds. You may not be the wealthiest people in the world, but you will be the wealthiest in terms of knowledge. You will be the wealthiest in terms of respect. The respect that a teacher gets, I don't think any other profession gets that kind of a respect. Even for a prime minister, people say "avunu yuvunu," which is singular. There is no English version to it because English is always he or she. But for a teacher, I've not heard people saying "avunu avulu." For a teacher, they always say "avru," which is the plural form, which is giving respect, and that is what we are all into. So we are all into this purpose. This talks about one thing which somebody was sharing with me very recently. He was my instructor in my gym, and he was sharing this. You know what? It was written in the Bible. He said, I don't know where and all, but he said, there was somebody who was carrying some wheat in his hand, and on the way he just threw it on some rock, and going further he threw some more, which was amidst the bushes, and some more he threw on fertile sand. On the rock, when he threw, nothing happened. They all just dried and they were waste. When he put it amidst the bushes, there were some plants that came up, but it was all stuck with thorns, and in that bushy area, it could not evolve and grow itself fully. But when it was put in that fertile soil, there was a beautiful crop that came up. And we are here to decide what is it that we want to do with these seeds, the seeds that are there in our hands. Are we going to put them on rock? Are we going to put them on bushes? Or are we going to put them in that fertile soil that is going to give us a crop that we are going to reap for the rest of our lives, and love and have pride in looking at it and saying, hey, this is the crop that I sowed. This is the crop that is so successful today, and I'm happy that I contributed. The beautiful thing about this is teachers don't expect anything in return. They don't expect that if a child became an IAS or an IPS officer or a politician or the prime minister or the chief minister of a country to say, I taught you, so you better come and do my job. I haven't seen a teacher do that. It's so much of a selfless service, and sincere thanks and gratitude to each one of you for that. It's absolutely a thankless job. Let us all join hands together, like the wheat story I told you, and build a happy India. How many of you are with me to build this happy India? Come on, say yes.
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 Yes. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I cannot express how thankful I can be. One day, my promise to you is one day in future, when we look at this and go back and say, hey, that day we all came together to see this image. We visualize this image, and today we made it a reality. And that is the Mission 100. To be a part of it, I invite you to kindly go to my YouTube channel, YouTube/Jeffrey Rakesh. Hit the subscribe button if you like to. There is no compulsion, but this is only for people who are really interested in making a difference. I might not ask for your time, I might not ask for anything, but there are few things where we just keep sharing good things. The problem in today's world is we have apprehension towards sharing something good also. There also people keep saying, if I do this, what is the benefit for him? Why should I do this? What is he thinking about? What is his larger plan? I got all these questions, trust me, right? So if you would like to, please go to this, hit the subscribe button. And the moment you go there, you will see Mission 100 video. Please take time and watch that video. It's in English and Kannada. Please choose whatever you would like to. And with this, once again, I express my sincere thanks to Swargarani School, all of you for patiently listening to me. I hope I've been able to add value in some way or the other to each one of you who spared about roughly 2 hours with me today. I value each one of your time. And I'm open for questions if you may have